Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Soccer Sofas podcast. It's me, Harry the Hornet, Bradley Hayden in the hot seat today. I'm stepping up from the bench for our manager, Elliot Lake, who unfortunately can't be with us today. He's off back in Norwich. But I'm pleased to say I'm joined, making his return to the Soccer Sofa today, by Mr. Jack Shocks.
How you doing, Brad?
Good, thank you, mate. How are you?
Yeah, all good, thank you, all good.
Right, it has been another busy week in the footballing world. But we thought we'd kick off today with Luke Shaw, the issue surrounding Luke Shaw at the minute. Jose Mourinho's come out and publicly slated Luke Shaw in the past few weeks, and after last night's game against Everton, he said that he used his body with my brain, saying that he had to instruct Luke Shaw right the way through the game last night, and he's been pretty scathing in his criticism. So, Jack, what do you make of all of this?
Oh yeah, I mean, firstly, it must be so embarrassing for the player. I mean, you're sitting and you're watching this interview later on in the day, and your manager goes and publicly embarrasses you to the press. I mean, it's inexcusable behaviour from Mourinho, but I mean, it's nothing we should be really shocked about, knowing his character. But I mean, I get it. He's clearly not happy with the player. I mean, it's not the first time that Luke Shaw's been called out for his work ethic. Don't forget. But there's a different way to go about it. There really is, and I mean, it just looks like the end of the road for Luke Shaw at United now. Which, to be fair to the player, might not be a bad thing.
I mean, saying that, he came on last night as a second half sub, but again, Mourinho did slate him. But I do agree with you. I think it can't be good for a young player like Luke Shaw to wake up in the morning and seeing his name on the back pages of the papers and Mourinho slating him. I mean, there's ways of going about things as a manager, and I think, especially with a young player, Mourinho needs to be a little bit more conservative and maybe do that criticism behind closed doors instead of going to the media first. And
I mean, you can look at it that way. Yeah, he's a young player. Maybe you should be a bit more, tiptoey around him, but he's a full international, don't forget. And you can look at it in that sense, but you can also look at it in, you can't disrespect a full international like that. I mean, he's got a habit of, embarrassing players, and we've said it on this show before, he's so hungry with power. It's ridiculous. I mean, and this is clearly another sign of which. But I mean, he's gone public. It's very dangerous, not just for the player, but for the rest of the team in that changing room. I mean, United aren't winning at the moment. They're not playing well. Top four's not secured. What effects that going to have on the changing room as a whole? I mean, I don't know whether Luke Shaw is a big character in the changing room, but regardless. And also last night, don't forget, he called out Henrik Mkhitaryan. He said he quoted he was not happy with his performance at West Brom. And again, it's why do you need to take that to the press? Why can't you sit? I mean, I'm sure he has, but why can't you just sit down with your player in the changing room? Pull him aside. Listen, not happy with your performance the other day. Give him a stern talking to. It's up to you how you want to manage your players, but to take it to the press, it's embarrassing for him. It's embarrassing for players. It's embarrassing for the club. But it's a great story. I'll give you that. It's a great story.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of last season with Mourinho at Chelsea, the way he publicly outed players, and that didn't really go too well for him, and it ended up with him losing his job. So it's reminded me a bit of that in a minute. I mean, United didn't like get Luke Shaw in the cheap. They paid a lot of money for him. Yeah. Over £20 million for.
It was more like 30, wasn't it?
It was more like 30 really for a player that was touted as the next big thing. And don't get me wrong, he's still got a lot of talent, but if Luke Shaw was to leave United over the summer, where could you see him going to?
Well, don't get me wrong. I think there'll be quite a few Premier League clubs looking to snap him up. I mean, I was always a bit disappointed that we never signed him. But I think a mid-table team, mid to high table team, so he can make his name again.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been off the radar for a bit. Yes, he had that injury and whatever, but a team like me, I think the perfect suitors for him would be Everton.
Yeah,
I mean, they need a replacement for Leighton Baines. He's getting on a bit now. I I mean, what's he good at apart from free kicks these days? But I think Luke Shaw, it'd be great for him to go to that Everton side. We've got some decent young English players as well, don't forget.
Good manager in Koeman as well.
Yeah, great manager. And just make that name for yourself again. I mean, I've seen him linked with Spurs, and I think that is the most ridiculous. That's the most ridiculous suggestion I've heard. I mean, he's going to want to get into that England team for the World Cup, and that should be the main point for him right now in trying to have a better season than Danny Rose.
I think Everton's a good shout actually, because of switching to three at the back. I could see him playing a wing back role quite well actually. He used to be able to get forward quite well. Attacking side of his game, he's very good. He's got good cross in him. He could very easily fit in to that Everton side, I think. And under Koeman, I think, who's got quite a reputation for developing young players, and he's shown at Everton that he's not afraid to give young players a chance. I mean, you've got Tom Davies in the middle. He's really flourished this season and been handed a new contract by him recently. But going back to Mourinho, is this potentially a sign that he's maybe feeling the pressure at United? I mean, the 5th place, drawn 12 games. They drew to West Brom at the weekend, drew to Everton last night. Obviously, we're recording before the Wednesday night games here, but they're 4 points from Man City in 4th. They've only lost 3 games, but is this a sign of Mourinho feeling the pressure that he's not had the success that he maybe wanted at United?
Don't forget that when Mourinho first came to England, when he first came on the scene, he was fantastic with the press. People used to love watching his press conferences, whether you were a Chelsea fan, whether you were, United fan, whatever. But it's a sign that he's changed. He's not doing well in his press conferences, and that's almost a sign of. It's hard to pinpoint what it is, but it's a sign that he's not the man he was. He's not the manager he was either, and he's got an egotistic problem when he's not the man, when it's not all about him. He crumbles, and you saw that last season. You're seeing it again this season. It's embarrassing. Yeah, I mean, it's embarrassing.
You look at that interview after the game at the weekend. He was taking issue with the journalist and announcing that was ridiculous. I mean, just answer the question and get on with it. It's just completely ridiculous.
Or don't turn up. Yeah, no need to embarrass the. Embarrass
they're
the
not
journalist.
ours to show you up in this case. He just wants to get your opinion on the game, and I think maybe Klopp is not Klopp. I mean, Jose is jealous with how the media have maybe taken to managers like Klopp, like Guardiola to an extent, like Koeman, like Conte. How they painted out to be the darlings of the Premier League, and that was Mourinho a few years ago. But now he's getting concerned that everything isn't about him.
Exactly.
Whilst a few years ago it was. So I mean, if you look at United this season, they've gone through fits and spells. They've been doing well, and then they've had a spell where they've not done so well, then they've been doing well, then they've had a spell of not doing so well. Do you think they're going to get into the top 4, or do you think 5th place and a League Cup and FA Cup is going to be the best that they could hope for this season?
I personally think we had this on air a few weeks ago as well. And I can't decide on my top 4, but I think if United were to get in it, it'd be bloody lucky. I mean, you compare United this season to how they're doing under Van Gaal and how they were doing under Moyes, and they're actually worse off now. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, a lot of the teams in the league are more competitive now, but I don't think. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, sometimes
hard.
I think they'll make top 4. Sometimes I don't. But
it's only a 4-point gap. I mean, if City have a wobble or Liverpool have a wobble, which is not inconceivable, then United are right back in it. And with Ibrahimovic returning, then it's only a good thing for them. But they have struggled without Ibrahimovic in that side. They have struggled to score goals.
He's the only one who can score goals. That's the problem. That is the problem. And if you're going to be a team. At the very top of the table, you need more than just one person chipping in with goals. But don't forget also that Mourinho is now managing the most expensive side in football history.
And the most expensive player as well.
And there he is, sitting in fifth. In a Premier League that, quite, frankly, isn't the best in terms of quality that it has been. So,